is time for our weekly live stream. Welcome back, everybody, to Freewarden Farmstead. Welcome back to the farmstead here at Freewarden Farm. We're still trying to figure out what the heck we are.
A farm for sure, because we got the animals.
Yep. Although, one second. I gotta crack my bubbly.
Might have to refresh it.
This hasn't caught up yet. Checking the sound here. Checking the sound. Checking the sound here.
Yeah.
Go turn a fan off over there. All right, so far, technical difficulties. We are the most amateur show on YouTube. But for any who tune in, thank you and welcome back to this disorganized show.
Real life. It's not our job, so we do what we can.
All right. Sounds much better without that fan going in the background. Sound check is over.
All right.
Time to get on with the show. So what is good, people?
What's going on?
Up in your life?
So we have warmer weather on the way.
Don't be shy. You can say hello in the comments.
Don't forget to like, share the video if you think anyone is going to be interested in it. But actually, I didn't even put down what we were talking about today because I actually couldn't remember what you told me when I asked. So I just said, join us. Oh, but it looks like you put it on there. A little bit more in there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had made a joke and you said no. So we won't even bring that up.
Okay.
3 weeks on the Carnivore Diet. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about what's right back there in the background a little bit.
Ah, yes.
We're going to be talking about just life in general on the farm. So, and another channel we're subscribed to just went live. Apparently we are in competition with Chestnut Hills Farm.
Yeah, they're in Alabama.
Okay. So for anybody who's wondering, this is a lime flavored bubbly. So, I mean, probably should be doing just sparkling water if I want something sparkling, but a little lime flavor probably isn't going to kill me. There's no carbohydrates, no sugars, nothing, just water and flavor. Not sure how that works out, but it's great. It gives you a little bit of, eventually going to wean off completely. Oh, I was looking at the wrong side. So there's the camera.
Yep.
Right there.
Yeah.
So we're going to wean ourselves off eventually from all alternative sweeteners such as stevia. Some people say stevia. I've always called it stevia. I didn't know it was referred to by any other name, but artificial sweeteners like allulose, that's just a brand new one on the market actually. It's going to take a while for me to retrain my eye to look at that.
Sorry.
All of the low carb or zero carb sweeteners we want to eventually get off from. But in the meantime, a little flavor here and there probably isn't going to hurt us. And that's not a sweetener, that's just no sweeteners in that. I'm rambling, but my point is eventually we want to get off from any added flavors, anything like that. And if we're doing sparkling, we'll just do regular water. And eventually we want to get off the electrolytes and the minerals and see how we fare on just meat. But in the meantime, we're assisting our bodies with transitioning from the SAD, from the standard American diet, the SAD diet. That almost feels redundant. The standard American diet is what I'm saying basically. Anyway, things are going well. Things are going great. We are 3 weeks into this. and I'm a little further along because of health issues. I had to start it back in November of last year, and I was fairly disciplined with it. I was at least 95% carnivore. I did splurge and eat a bunch of junk on December 30th. Was that the last day of the year, or was it the 31st?
It was the 31st.
31st. There's 31 days in December.
Yep. So New Year's Eve, he went all out. You have to excuse me for snacking. A nursing mother requires a little bit more than the average person, so I generally don't feel hungry since being on this. I eat breakfast and then I'm not hungry until the evening, but it's been messy with my milk supply, so I've been forcing myself to continue to keep eating even though I don't feel like it, but I don't want to have it hamper my milk supply, so eating when I don't feel like it is how it's going to be.
I guess we didn't talk to any of the children about coming on here and jumping in on the live stream. So as we're doing this, if any of them want to jump in and share how their journey is going so far, they could just come back here and let us know in their traditional manner. What's stirring back there? Oh, yeah, that's got to get turned down, I guess. Turn it down to like 2. We were grinding suet to turn it into tallow to add to our ground beef, and that was sitting back there. I forgot I cranked it up to get the heat started, and then I was going to turn it back down. I should just never do that because I always forget. Who else forgets stuff on the stove? I forget so very often. Again, don't be shy, say hello in the comments. We will not bite. We will say hello. And share this with anybody that you may think would be interested in this.
So, in case no one's seen our video from yesterday, we are currently puppy sitting 2 very pretty sibling huskies. They've been adapting really, really well. Like, the first day was a little iffy for the male, but he's finally settled in a bit. He tried playing with Ragnar this morning. Hey, Julia. So, yeah, he tried playing with Ragnar. Ragnar is just still so much of a puppy and outweighs everybody by like 60 pounds. He just doesn't know how to play gently just yet. So,
yeah, he likes to tackle them.
Yeah,
chase him down.
It's like he picks him up like a football and then he throws him on the ground. So, but yeah, they are still doing well. The girls hasn't been a problem whatsoever. She's just a sweetheart. But I know that you were doing some training with him. Just because he's
some desensitization with his paws because he's very I think it's a trust issue. He feels insecure. The boxes, the female puppy, she doesn't have a single problem with you grabbing her paw. And Chevy, on the other hand, he's a little bit less trusting of us. So that'll come in time, just with humans in general. He's got a lot of food aggression, so I was working with him on that. Just kept petting him until he stopped trying to bite me.
Yep.
Now we're working on petting him until he stops trying to growl. And he's not actually trying to bite. He's feigning a bite, as far as I can tell. I've got big, thick gloves on because it's freezing cold out there.
So yeah, we're doing some just testing out, seeing what they're like, so that way when our friends come back from vacation, we can give them a report card on what we think. Since I don't necessarily know their background about raising animals, but I'm just from what I think I know, I think we're probably a little bit more experienced with raising dogs, and so and whenever we do like dog sit for anybody, like things that we observe, we'll let them know. So yeah, we're working on some stuff with them, and we'll have some fun things to talk to them about and give them some homework and stuff if they are interested in it. So, but yeah, so what do you want to talk about?
Well, I thought we'd talk about how things are going since we've been in carnivore for 3 weeks.
Okay.
Um, I
You had
thought, I thought,
started talking.
yeah, I
about
thought
it.
I would share a little bit about why we are doing this carnivore diet for a year in the first place. And why a year? That sounds crazy. You see a lot of people, they say they're going to try it for 30 days or they're going to do it for 90 days, 60. So I've seen 30, 60, 90 days. I've not seen anybody put put it out there that they're going to try this for a year. I'm sure there are people that are doing that. But why a year? Um, because it takes about 1 year for you to really understand what carnivore is doing for your body. It takes up to 6 months before you're fully fat transitioned, and that's just where your body is using fat now as its sole fuel. Uh, it's where you can go really low on blood glucose because your body is burning ketones, which is what your body produces when you're in ketosis. And you can go really low on glucose because your brain now is using ketones as its primary fuel source. Your body is going to continue to produce glucose even if you don't eat a single carb. So it's going to take about 6 months, I figure, as wrecked as some of us are, to get to be on ketosis, in ketosis long enough that our body completely adapts and is actually making use of that fuel source to its optimal uh, potential. Minimum 6 months. And then we're giving ourselves another 6 months sort of period of now living in that new state of human living. What is that going to do for us in a 6 month period? So we're giving our bodies basically 6 months to transition, 6 months to adapt to being in ketosis, to be fat adapted, so that our body is using every bit of it optimally. This is based on research done on professional athletes. When they switch over to a keto diet or they go on a diet that puts them in ketosis, for 6 months they may not be able to perform at their optimal potential. It may take up to 6 months for them to, they're going to possibly even regress a little bit in their performance, and then they're going to eventually get to a point after 6 months where they're now performing as optimally as they did before, and then even more so. So that's where we're sitting, is based on those studies. We want to kind of get our bodies to that point and then live in it for 6 months and see if we ever want to go back. That's the goal. And so kind of a interesting thing going along with this, with bringing our kids along on this journey. We've had a couple of people that are a little bit concerned about us doing this, a little bit concerned that we're putting our kids through this, and either thinking that we're doing this experimentally, like it's never been done before and we're potentially putting our children in danger, or thinking that there's evidence out there that shows that after they've been doing this for 6 months, they are not going to be able to digest and absorb and properly process carbohydrates ever again, which is completely false. Not to say they could start up eating carbs and day one they're going to be feeling awesome, but your body can transition. We are a multi-fuel, our bodies are amazing. They're a multi-fuel machine basically that is geared to be able to run on either fat or on sugar, carbohydrates. And it will do either interchangeably, and we have done so for thousands of years. We have switched back and forth between fats and meat, between a carnivore lifestyle and having to use some carbohydrates to fill in the spots where we're not getting our, the hunt didn't go successfully, so now we got to dig up some fibrous tubers and eat those. But we've been switching back and forth for millennia. It's not going to be an issue, and there's a lot of information out there. If you go looking for it, you will find the scary stuff that will scare you away from carnivore. But if you go looking for the evidence that rebuts that, that's also there. So it's kind of one of those things where if you're only looking for one side of the story, you're going to find it. You're going to find that carnivore is horrible and that you shouldn't do it. It's going to kill you, and all of these studies show this, that, or the other thing, and it's stuff I've looked into. So for anybody watching who's going, I bet he doesn't know about this. Hey, I'm betting I probably do. But carnivore has been going great so far. Officially 3 weeks in, and nobody has any issues. Everybody's got good energy. I've got amazing energy since I've been doing this now for about a little over 2 months, and officially 3 weeks, fairly strict carnivore. The only thing that I'll have now once in a while is a glass of milk, and I try to keep that to 1 glass a day at the very most, and there have been stints where I've gone much longer than that, up to a week without a glass of milk. And so far, I've not been noticing a difference as long as I keep the dairy low. So there are some carbohydrates in dairy, but it's raw. It's A2A2, which means it's the type of protein. The type of casein in it is the type that our bodies are more capable of breaking down and using. And I think that's only even more so on carnivore. And it's also got the beta casein type BB, which is extremely high fat. So it fits the profile for a carnivore diet, the type of milk that we're getting. And because it is raw, the proteins are not denatured, so our body can actually make use of them. There's a huge difference between raw and pasteurized milk. The pasteurized milk has basically been turned into turbo rocket fuel that our body burns through really quickly and is left over with a lot of things that it can't use and it can't digest, and there's no enzymes left in the milk to be able to help our bodies process it. So all that to say, getting back to the point, feeling really, really good now that we've been officially 3 weeks on carnivore. My energy levels have gone way up, and the energy just lasts all day until a certain point when I'm just done, and I'm like, yep, now I'm done. Now I feel like I need to go to sleep. Last night, I went to bed much earlier than I usually do because I'd been working all day. So yesterday I was driving back and forth out to the pasture and back up here to the house, hauling logs and hauling cutoffs from when we felled trees over 1.5 years ago. And it's been sitting out there for quite a while. The cutoffs especially, those are all dried out and ready to use as firewood. They just got to get cut up. I mean, some of them are like that thick. There's a few that are that thick, but most of them are about that thick. So they're pretty dry. And so they've just been sitting out there in piles waiting for us to cut them up. We've got a huge pile of cutoffs, and I've got at least the equivalent, if not more, in logs up here that we're going to cut up in a matter of days. That'll be turned into firewood, and then we'll be set for the rest of the winter, I think. I've got the equivalent of probably 4 trees out there to cut up, so I think we'll be set.
But yeah, so he drove back and forth between the pasture, and it was a very bumpy ride. And so when he got done with that, and he did it all day. Like after he got chores done, he was out there back and forth, and then...
Actually, I did the chores at halfway through.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was driving back and forth.
That's right, because the pigs were out all day.
Yep.
The breeders decided to hang out near the house today, pester the dogs. Yeah, I mean, we had a fireplace in the first place that we rented, like the first place where we had the kids. And we haven't rented a place since that had a wood stove in it, and I really liked having it there. And so yeah, when we bought this place and there was just a corn burner here, I was just like, we need to put a real wood stove in here. And a year later we did. So it's very exciting. It's you miss it when you don't have it. It's
Fireplaces
nothing like
are
it.
the spice of life in the winter. You need one. I do think that they help a lot, especially with seasonal depression. Although being on this diet really helps a lot too. Um, that's something I've noticed the last 2 years that we've been out here. Actually, the last several years we've been out here. I've noticed a lot of seasonal depression. Now you can take supplements. You can take your vitamin D and your vitamin K. Is it K2?
I'm not sure.
And you can take your minerals, right? So you can take all those things, or you can just eat meat and take a mineral supplement for the first couple of months, and then you're set, and your body should be adapted so that you're absorbing the minerals that are found in the meat, which are hyper absorptive. They're hyper bioavailable in meat form, to the point where eventually our goal is we're not taking any other supplements because we're getting all of our nutrition. Our bodies have adapted and have learned to pull all the nutrition they need from just the meat, which will make things really simple. Because I've done diets, I've done nutrition for years, and it's like, you do this thing, but now you've got to add this additional supplement because you're not getting the stuff that you were getting, and you're not buying all of these processed foods that had all of the nutrition added into them, that were fortified with vitamins. So it's a whole different thing. When you get into nutrition, you can go down a rabbit hole of nutrition that is never ending, and you're constantly adding something else. And then you basically add a whole bunch of chores into your day where you've got to remember to take this multivitamin, you got to
Yeah.
remember to take this additional mineral, and then you got to make up some drink so that you can stomach taking this nasty thing that you've been told you got to take. And eventually, now some people just do it, and I've never been one that can just do it and stay on the bandwagon.
I
of
always forget to take vitamins.
consistently staying up to date with all of the things that we're supposed to be taking. It just gets ridiculous. So a lot of the doctors who are on carnivore themselves say that eventually you're just eating meat and you're getting everything that you need from the animal products themselves. So you might want to take some liver, some heart. I would eat heart like nothing. Heart is amazing. It's a really rich, flavorful organ. I don't like liver at all. That'll possibly change as we progress in our journey, but I've not had a scrap of liver. You can get those liver supplements if you want to take it in pill form, but we have some. But again, that's just one other thing that you got to add in.
Yep.
Taking our daily electrolytes and minerals is super simple because they're tasty, they're sugar-free, carb-free, plant-free, and we enjoy having that. It's kind of like the one little treat that we still have that's not cheating. But so after, let me get back to the firewood hauling story. So after going out to the pasture with the tractor, pulling up, I made dozens of trips. All day long I was driving this tractor back and forth, grabbing logs, grabbing cutoffs, piling them up, getting ready to cut them up. And and by the end of the day, I was shot. I was just done for. And I thought, this is it. I'm going to be so sore tomorrow. I have not driven tractor like this in a long time. I am going to be a hurting man in the morning. Because I was hurting last night. Tell you what, it was, I almost felt like I needed to go get a massage or something because it was bad. But I just thought, I'm going to go to bed. I'm so tired, I can't do anything else. So I went to sleep. I woke up this morning at probably 6 in the morning, And at first I was anticipating the pain. I was anticipating the suffering. And I was just bracing myself for that first tinge of pain as I began to kind of shuffle and move. And it never came. And then I kind of forgot about it, and I jumped out of bed, and I got up, and I went and brushed my teeth and did my hair, and I got ready for the day, and I ran out to do chores. And then I was thinking, I saw the tractor, I went and I started it up, and I sat down in the seat, and I remembered the pain that I felt by the time I got out of that seat yesterday. And I thought, shouldn't I be in a lot more pain now? But there was none. No soreness. I can kind of feel just a tinge of it. When I really think about it, yeah, there's a little soreness, but there's no soreness. I have no aching joints, no aching bones, no aching muscles, nothing. It's amazing. And I've never done this before. I've never gone through hours of the tractor ride and hauling stuff on the bumpy ground that we have out there in the pasture. I mean, it's like you feel like you're riding a bucking bull. Mm-hmm. And so, even going slow, you can't avoid the bumps, especially when you've got something heavy in the back and something heavy on the front end. You just turn into a seesaw in that thing, and you hold on. So that's my little testimonial on how I feel this morning. Feeling great all day so far, no soreness, and I thought that for sure that was a lie. That because I've heard that before. They've said that you feel just after the day after you maybe have a really hard workout, you don't have any soreness. Well, I had a really hard workout, hanging on for dear life as I'm driving this wood up, and no problems. So that is not why I started the carnivore diet, but it is a nice little perk if this continues. If I'm getting the nutrition that my body needs to be able to rebuild muscles, because obviously, I was getting a workout in there, so muscles were, having micro tears, and it was hard on my joints, hard on my back, hard on everything. And yet, here we are today, and I don't feel like I was driving tractor all day yesterday. So one thing that we did want to talk about today in the same regard was why, like the real root causes. What is our why for, hopefully, for trying carnivore? What are we hoping to overcome? Now, you talked a lot about it last time. Mm-hmm.
I've
your
told
reasons
my
why.
Yep.
And I'm going to share a little bit more of my side. So a lot of what my reasons are for doing this is not just for me, but it's for my family. Of course, I'd do it with or without them. It would be hard. It makes it a lot easier when everybody's doing it, because then there is just nothing. There's nothing. Oh, I'm drinking. I think I said this earlier when nobody was on. So the question is, what am I drinking? I'm drinking bubbly sparkling water, and it's lime flavored. There's no sugars, no artificial sweeteners. It says carbonated water and natural flavor. Who knows what natural flavor is? But as far as I'm concerned, this is getting us through these the first month or two of carnivore, and then we're gonna probably go to just straight, pure carbonated water if we drink any carbonated water at all. But flavored carbonated water, and you've got a different flavor.
I have strawberry.
Yeah, so mine's lime, and we've tried mango, we've tried
Pineapple.
peach.
Yep, peach. Peach is one that I like. So
the best one, in my opinion, is lime. You like some others.
I like the more fruity ones. Just because, and like I didn't drink soda before this either, and so it's not like I'm trying to also cut myself off of that, but it's just like, it's interesting that like before I used to drink a lot of water. Like I would just always be drinking water. I would go through this maybe 3 or 4 times a day, maybe even more than that. But then now with going carnivore, I have found that like I need something more than just water, and so I don't know if it's like maybe salt that I'm looking for, or if it's like just something else, something more than just water. And so it's helpful to have these, and then the electrolytes, of course, are nice. But I don't even have those every day now. I've actually started cutting myself down to maybe like every other day, because there's just some days where I don't feel like it, so I don't. But these are definitely nice, and they're helpful to just mix it up from just water. And Julia, we've rented most of our married lives we've rented, but we bought this place, so this is our first home that we've ever bought. So yeah, drink options like the carbonated, the sparkling waters with some flavors. You do want to be careful with this brand though, because they have like mixed berries. They have another branch off that actually has caffeine in it, with different berries in it and stuff like that. So it's I don't know what they're trying to do, but they've put caffeine in that one. So I'm staying away from that, because like you don't need the caffeine. So
Yeah, that's another thing too. I've gone off coffee completely, and after 3 days, I didn't miss it whatsoever. Actually, the first day off coffee was hard. The day after, I was like, I actually feel really good. I felt like I got way better sleep. So yeah, I'm not looking to go back on caffeine. If I ever do go back on coffee, and I mean, I was a heavy coffee drinker. I drink more coffee than I drink water. That was my primary source of hydration, which is really bad. And I didn't drink no watered down Lutheran church potluck coffee. Nothing against Lutherans, nothing against potlucks, but your coffee there is
water
awful.
that tastes like coffee a little bit.
Awful. It's basically hot water that tastes a little bit like coffee. Don't do that. You got to help these Lutheran churches. That's why they lose people, I'm sure, is because the coffee is awful. I love me a good liturgical Lutheran service, but no thanks for the coffee.
But he was on the coffee for until like
used
what was
grounds.
it?
She said used grounds.
Used grounds. That's gross.
Probably reused.
Yeah, they
Save
just
some
reuse
money.
them, save money. Yeah, exactly. That sounds about right. But yeah, no. So like when he started Carnivore, Pumpkin needs water. She's scratching at her bowl. So when you started in November,
Yep.
he was still drinking coffee.
Lots of
And
coffee.
he was still drinking an energy drink that is fairly clean, but it had a lot of stevia in it. And so he was drinking those. So I would say he was a lot dirtier with his carnivore, but he was still not eating. He wasn't eating flour. And so, yeah, he was. Well,
I was keeping it under 10 grams of carbohydrates a day, but 8 grams of my carbohydrates was in one of those energy drinks.
One of those drinks. So, yeah. But when was it? It wasn't even like New Year's that you stopped drinking coffee. It was like maybe a week into New Year's that you were thinking, I still don't feel good. Do you think it's the coffee? And me having done research too, being like, I've heard that coffee can be a problem for some folks. And so he's like, okay, well, I'll try it. And then he got off of it.
Yep. I just quit it cold turkey like anything else. And that really contributed to a better night's sleep. It contributed to, I was definitely addicted. I needed coffee to get up and go. Now, I think that switching from, I think that if I had quit coffee at the same time that I started carnivore, that would have been a mistake. I think that the way that I did it, going from the standard American diet, or a balanced diet, as some people like to say, right? Because that's supposed to be healthy. Going from a balanced diet to carnivore, and then over a month later, getting off from coffee, getting off from this energy drink that had stevia in it, and it was supposed to be from one of these health food companies. I can't remember what it was, but anyway, it's not important. It was not one of the bad energy drinks. It was one of the supposedly better energy drinks. Didn't have a whole ton of sugar. Didn't have a whole bunch of. It didn't even have caffeine in it. I was getting all my caffeine from the coffee. But going off from that and coffee about a month later to kind of ease into this was probably the best thing for me, because coffee was mandatory. If I got up and tried to start my day and I didn't have coffee halfway through the day, I would have a horrible headache. I would be so irritable, and I would feel like I had nothing left in the tank. So definitely getting away from coffee later was good, but I wouldn't recommend somebody, it's kind of like I know a guy out there who tried to do a whole bunch of things, and it was like doing cold plunges, doing carnivore, also like adapting it to do some other kind of diet at the same time, which I don't think is a good idea. If you're trying to do carnivore, just do carnivore, see how you do, then start adding stuff back in. And then you've got, also a very taxing exercise regimen. Going to bed early, waking up super early, and there's all of these different things that they wanted to do. And about day 4, they cut everything else out and they just stuck with carnivore because it was too much for them. And I think that the risk of somebody trying to do all of that, which didn't happen for them, is that they try to do everything, they fail at most of the things, and they don't stick with the most important thing.
Yeah, they just give up.
So it is not a good idea to try to quit a whole bunch of things that you're addicted to. When you're quitting carbohydrates, which we're heavily, heavily addicted to, I mean, the more I learn about it, the more I'm like, I will never go back. I will never eat another bite of that if I can help it, because of how toxic it is for everything. For like actually every organ of our body. I've got no regrets of continuing to do coffee for about a month while I was starting carnivore and slowly transitioning away from that. I did start to drink less coffee, I noticed, but I still felt like I needed it. So one day I was just like, I'm going to cut it out. We're going to see how it goes. So 3 days later, all the withdrawals left, but I wasn't dealing with all the withdrawals from carbohydrates and coffee at the same time, so it was a lot easier. I do remember I took an aspirin for a headache. So that's the one thing is with Carnivore Diet, you don't stop using plant-based things, which aspirin is, and you don't stop using those things for medicinal purposes. You can still get your, some women when they're pregnant like to take raspberry leaf tea. I know my wife uses a supplement to help improve milk production while she's nursing. And so you've got all of these beneficial plants out there and herbs and stuff. You don't have to stop using those if the problems that you're using them for persist. But why not give it a shot and see if carnivore just fixes those problems? A lot of people, they report that a month in, 3 months in, a year later, they don't have any of these problems anymore. And so they don't need the herbs. You're not going to take something you don't need, right? That's just wasteful. That's using a resource that you don't actually need, and those resources aren't free. I mean, a lot of herbal medicine is extremely expensive. It's not as expensive comparatively when you got to go in for a major surgical operation or something because your body's dilapidated and falling apart, but you're not going to spend money on these things if you don't need them, right? So cutting out coffee, cutting out virtually almost all carbohydrates now. The only carbohydrates that we get are in our healthy-ish, I say healthy-ish because I would like a better option, our healthy-ish meat sticks that we eat when we're in a pinch and we need a quick snack. So we buy fatty meat sticks. This is not a sponsorship, and I'm not endorsing them. I'm just saying it's the best thing I've found that you can get at the Quick Star or the Quick Trip, depending on where you live. If you have one of those, I've seen them at gas stations. So basically they've got 1 gram of carbohydrates, maybe 2 grams of carbohydrates per stick. So I eat one of those. I had 2 grams of carbohydrates today. Oh my goodness. I don't think it's gonna hurt us or take us out of ketosis. I think we're gonna be good. But the carbohydrates and the caffeine and everything else We've gotten off from that, and I'm feeling so much better. I'm waking up so much brighter, so much clearer in the morning. That was the one thing that shocked me. I thought for a while here I'm going to have brain fog in the morning, I'm going to struggle, but that was not an issue 3 days in. Now, so for some people, it may take a week, it may take a month. I don't know. Everybody's different, every body is different. So you've just got to do what works for you, and you figure these things out as you go. This is a trial and error sort of thing. We don't have all the answers. I've not met anybody, doctors, nurses, practitioners, naturopaths, who espouse this sort of lifestyle. I've not met anybody who said they have all the answers. It's been a really interesting journey so far. Now, I will say, we should probably read some comments here. So, I know Brandon has mentioned brain fog and pains as part of his symptoms. Those are some of the things I struggle with. Yeah. Quitting coffee is something I am dreading. Well, don't do it until you are ready.
Yeah.
I was ready. It got to the point where I had been listening to doctors. Some were saying, "Oh, you can keep doing coffee if it's not a problem for you." And I was thinking, it was wishful thinking.
You wanted coffee to not be a problem.
I wanted coffee to not be a problem. But it got to the point where I was like, having been on carnivore for so long, at that point, probably about 2 months, we're over 2 months now for me. I should say I'm over 2 months now. But at about the 2 month mark on carnivore, that's when I think I quit the coffee, cold turkey. And it was because having been on carnivore that long, I started to become more in tune with my body and what it was feeling. You know, I did every once in a while have something that I probably shouldn't have, and my body told me like that. So I started to be able to recognize the signs. I started to be able to recognize my body talking to me and saying, I didn't like that. You shouldn't have eaten that. You shouldn't have drank that. And it's an amazing feeling, you know. It's almost like you change in a level of your consciousness. I don't want to get weird or, you know, but it's weird. You can start hearing your body talk to you. You can start hearing your body say, hey, I want more meat. I want more fat.
Yeah. So
Get
today
some more
my
fat
body
in
was
your
saying,
body.
get more eggs.
Unfortunately, the chickens
The
didn't lay
chickens
the
have
eggs.
decided that today is not the day that they're going to give us eggs. So Brandon found one this morning, and I've gotten one egg today, but my body was just like, I need more eggs.
She found one. Delaney found one.
Delaney found one. So
I decided not to lay yesterday too.
yeah, so
Yesterday we got maybe one.
we are trying to
From
convince our
100
chickens. We're trying to convince our chickens that like we'll give you more food, and you give us more eggs then.
Yeah.
So we're trying to negotiate with chickens.
So quit coffee when you're ready to quit coffee.
Yes.
If you're dreading it, you'll eventually get to the point where
You'll want to.
you'll want to. You know, I remember watching an interview with the Machine Gun Preacher, the actual guy who was the movie was based on, and he said he just got to a point in his life when he was a bad man, and he was running in motorcycle gangs, and he was selling, you know, they were selling firearms, they were selling paraphernalia, all sorts of stuff. He never wanted. I don't want to now. I'm going to start mixing things up here. What he did was he quit cold turkey, all the alcohol, all the drugs, hard drugs, and he was a partier. And he was addicted. But one day, I think he said that he decided enough was enough. He's going to turn his life around. I think he joined a church. He went on a crazy mission. I think the mission was supposed to last a month. And he just stayed behind and never came back. Virtually is the story, how the story goes. Machine Gun Preacher, but he's like, you know, people got to want to quit things, and that's been my belief. I've dealt with addicts before. I've dealt with people on drugs and alcohol and carbs and caffeine are really no different. You know, sugar is 8 times as addictive as cocaine. It's more addictive and more damaging than smoking. But somebody is not going to quit those things until they're ready to. And when they're ready, they're going to do it. So I don't think badly of people who try to start quitting something and then they don't. I just think, well, they weren't ready. They didn't really want to. I don't really blame people who are addicted to something and struggle to get off from it, because I know I've been there with carbohydrates for sure. It was a struggle. It took me basically 5 years of amping up and needing my reason why, which is basically health, to make it really simple. But
What I've experienced in the past is that it silenced the call. It silences you until you stop the call. So you might have lost a little bit of sound there. Apparently, my
We had a
phone
call
decided
come in.
to.
but it's all good now.
Yeah.
So we're back, if we ever left in the first place. So I truly believe that's the way it is, and I think that the more things you cut out of your life, so if you've cut out carbs and you're going strong on that, stick with that until that becomes easy. And then, when you're ready, your body will tell you, okay, now you can quit this other thing, whether it be caffeine or artificial sweeteners. You will, if you have a strong why, and your why isn't being met while you're still on caffeine or some artificial sweetener, your why will kick in, your body will start to talk to you, and it'll say, hey, I think you're ready to do this. So don't dread it. Just expect that it might happen, and you'll know when. And you'll be very glad for the day if you need to cut those other things out, when you do cut them out. And you'll also find things that fill those voids for you too. So for me, it's just living, just having the exuberance of the vitality of life again, and feeling good about living, and feeling good about being able to get out there and spend an entire day in the tractor hauling wood like I did yesterday, and waking up today and not being incredibly sore to the point where I didn't want to get out of bed. And really having no soreness, and getting right out there again like it was just another day, another dollar. Nothing different here. So I think your chair is creaking there, bud. So we have a guest speaker with us today. This is Delaney. She has been a carnivore for 3 weeks, and we have been fairly strict carnivore for 3 weeks. How do you feel? Your honest opinion. How do you feel about having been carnivore for 3 weeks? And not even about it. How do you feel in general? Do you miss things, or do you not really care? How do you feel physically, mentally? You can talk about whatever you want. You don't have to answer all those questions. You can answer, or you can say anything you want.
Okay, well, something that it's kind of hard to tell, because I've always been an early person, so I'm usually the first person awake unless I stayed up late. Did I say that wrong? I can't tell.
No, you said it right.
Okay.
You're doing good. Don't be nervous.
So you normally wake up early in the morning. You're still waking up early?
Yeah. It is kind of hard being carnivore because the rubber bags are hard to open.
The rubber bags?
Yeah.
Which bags?
The ones that have the plastic top.
Okay.
Ones you gotta slide on.
But that's the hardest thing about being carnivore?
Except for the
the
treats.
silicone bags that
Yeah.
we put the meat in so that we're not getting plastic particles in our food. Gotcha.
I've been craving cinnamon rolls. Got their name.
Do you feel full every day? Do you get full?
If I can.
If you can.
Sometimes mommy doesn't make enough food.
Kids are always hungry.
These kids eat more than I do.
But when you don't get enough food at a meal, you can always make more food. If we have eggs, you can make a quick egg. We've got sandwich meat. We've got some Oh, what do they call them?
Guys.
Rinds, pork rinds. We've got meat sticks. We've got jerky when we can keep it in the house.
Mm-hmm.
So, is it, so you miss, do you have any cravings for sweets and stuff like that?
Mm-hmm. Mostly
And
cinnamon rolls.
mostly cinnamon rolls, yeah. So that's one of the interesting things about this is the other reason that we're doing this for 6 months is because it can take about 6 months before the cravings go away completely. And then I was just listening to something earlier today while I was out doing chores, and they were talking about how those cravings further disappear if you ever try something again, like a cinnamon roll, that the flavor just doesn't taste like what you remembered it tasting because your body has adapted and it's changed to be able to process and absorb the nutrition from the meat, and that's just so much more satiating. But so carnivore has it been awful? On a scale of 1 to 10, how hard has it been? How bad does it feel to be on carnivore? Like 10 being the worst, 1 being like, I don't care.
Like, maybe 5 or 4.
Okay, so it's a 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
So that's about what it feels like for me. There's still things I want. There's a lot of things I want.
The Izzies are okay, or the bubbly are okay.
Yeah, we used to drink Izzy's once in a while. Fruit juice, basically soda.
Sugar.
Not any better for you than a soda, but those are a special treat once in a while. I don't miss those at all. I think having some carbonated water, like we're drinking here, the bubbly, is helps with anything like that. So definitely carbonated water. Do you feel any more mental clarity? Like, is it easier to think, easier to talk, or have you not noticed anything at all?
Well, when we first, I probably shouldn't mention this because it's kind of been here forever, but I've noticed like sometimes, like, you'll rarely ever notice, but sometimes I have a little stutter where I'll like repeat a word on accident, like end, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's always kind of been there. I noticed it a few. I accidentally said it in front of Hadassah one time. We were talking about something. But not really. I haven't really noticed anything like that.
Okay.
I've noticed that I like bacon more.
So are you saying that you don't think you have that stutter anymore?
I guess I haven't noticed it
Yeah.
for a while.
And it probably wasn't like I mean, I don't know. That's interesting though. I didn't notice it. I didn't notice
I've
it
never
any
told
more
you
than
guys, so.
than my own stutters. But a lot of times, you know, even like I just said but there, I always say or stuff like that. Filler words, a lot of times, sometimes a stutter can be a filler word. And we don't actually have a stutter. Like some people really do struggle with that. But the stuttering could just be you trying to add a filler word in because we don't like silence as human beings. We're not comfortable with it. It's something that we have to get used to. Because like right now, that silence, I wanted to say, Anything else?
Yeah, one last thing. Maybe. I miss some treats, but I also miss some foods that like aren't sweets. Like sometimes a little while ago I was wanting spaghetti. And I've also wanted fish strips.
Yep. There are ways around fish strips. We could get fish and make our chicken flour and bread them And if we wanted to fry them up, we could fry them in tallow or bacon grease. So, but I don't think that looking for alternatives to all the foods that we really liked before we were on carnivore and trying to find a way to make them in a low carb or no carb way is really beneficial to the longevity of this diet. I think you'll ultimately just end up wanting those things more and more because they never taste, the alternatives never taste as good as the original did, right? Because these things, like, it's not that they don't taste good. It's not that a Big Mac or it's not that spaghetti doesn't taste good. I mean, we've had hundreds of years of food science to make these things taste as good as possible so that you'll want them. So it's not that they don't taste good, but they taste amazing. It's just that the nutrition quality is low and lacking. Thinking of taking Tylenol to help quit coffee. Yeah, I don't want to give any advice on Tylenol, but I definitely look into the problems that are out there with Tylenol. I know that it does basically shut down your liver, cause it to stop working, where our liver is the epicenter. It's where fevers begin. So Tylenol is taken a lot of times to lower a fever, but ultimately what it's doing is it's shutting your liver down so it can't produce the fever that our body is trying to use to burn out the infection, to burn out the disease that we've become infected with, the bug or whatever, the viruses, the bacteria. And so Tylenol, ibuprofen, I've taken a lot of those over the years. I try very hard to never take any of those ever again, just because of the dangers that I've learned about, and hoping that I didn't do my body irreparable damage. But so the Tylenol might be worth it, and it might not. You're just gonna have to see. Make your own decisions on that front. I personally try to stay away from Tylenol and ibuprofen now because they force-fed it to us in the military, and I know that stuff is really bad for our liver, kidneys, our bodies in general. And I'm sure, it's not that aspirin doesn't have a downside, but there are those. There is the potential of brain bleeds, right? It can cause brain bleeds. So it's like there's not a perfect solution out there. At the end of the day, if you've got to operate and you're doing it for a short period of time, there's probably nothing wrong with a little Tylenol, a little ibuprofen, or a little bit of aspirin. But I just try to take one 325 milligram dose of aspirin now when I do take it, just because I want to take the lowest dose possible. However, Tylenol, Tylenol is probably gonna, I'm not gonna say it's not gonna help. It probably would help. I know that the headaches for me weren't as bad as I was expecting, but that was after I'd been carnivore for like 2 months. So take that for what it's worth. The drink options and the snack options is something I'll address real quick. So we do fatty meat sticks, we do pork rinds, though we're going to start cutting those out as well because I believe they're fried in seed oils. I've not been able to confirm that nor get that denied. The brands that we buy, all of them are probably fried in canola oil, or what's the other one? Peanut oil are the two big seed oils that they're fried in, and seed oils are horrible for us, as I've been learning. So we don't want to be using seed oils. If anything, I'd prefer that they be fried in tallow or in lard. That would be great. But I can't verify that that the pork rinds that we're getting are fried in tallow or lard. And so we're probably going to cut out the pork rinds until we butcher our own pig and are able to make our own pork rinds, and then we'll turn the entire pig skin, or as much of it as possible, into pork rinds. Pork rinds, though, maybe an option, maybe a bad option. I'm not going to put that out there as one that I'd recommend. So, what do we say so far? Pork rinds, meat sticks, beef jerky. Of course, we've got, there's sardines, there's tuna, there's salmon. Don't forget about other seafoods, mollusks, shellfish that you can get in a can. If it's just pure, unadulterated meat, no sugar added, they can add salt, they can add chicken broth, they can add water. But if it's just the meat and, some other zero carb additives like salt or water or broth, something like that, nothing wrong with a can of oysters, nothing wrong with a can of mussels or sardines or tuna or salmon. That's a really good quick snack, high in protein, good omega-3s. It's going to have, oysters are high in zinc. We're all probably deficient in these minerals if we're not supplementing them. And if our bodies are not adapted on the carnivore diet to be able to pull them from the meat that we're eating yet, then it's not a bad thing. Here, I'm going to flip this up so we don't have to keep seeing that. There we go. So those are the approved snacks that you can buy just about anywhere, or you should be able to find something like that just about anywhere. I mean, even a gas station, you can usually find some canned meat there. There's nothing wrong with, I hear that Spam is okay. I'm not a big fan of Spam, but it would definitely have the salt content that you need. I don't know about all the other seasonings that they put in there. If there are seasonings, I'm not sure. But you can get canned beef, you can get any kind of meat canned usually. Better yet, can it yourself, and then you know exactly what's in it. As far as additional homemade snacks, we used to do a ton of cookies. Cookie making extraordinaires, these young ladies. But they make some of the best chocolate chip cookies in the world. We were famous at the farmers market for Iowa's best chocolate chip cookies. We had people coming back, and we weren't there every week, so when they saw us, they're like, "Oh, you're back," and they'd come up and buy as many bags of cookies as they could afford that day. But instead of cookies, we do something similar now, but it's all made of meat, and they're called Carnivore Power Balls. They're made of beef, bacon. So bacon is another thing. You can fry that up, stick it in the fridge, and just pull out a piece of bacon and eat that. But beef, bacon, egg, cheese. If you want to be really strict carnivore, cut the cheese out, and then salt. So we've got beef, bacon, egg, cheese, salt. You can skip the salt. You can even skip the egg, or you can skip don't skip the salt. You do need salt on the carnivore diet. Lots of salt will help with the electrolyte, as your body flushes electrolytes, it'll help replenish that. And then maybe you don't have to take so many electrolytes supplementally at first anyway. So mix these all together and make a meatball out of them. You can even put some pork. Get some ground pork, ground beef, mix it all together. Oh, bacon grease. All the bacon grease from the bacon, you mix that in there too because you want lots of fat. As a carnivore, fat is essential. It's what your body's going to be running on. It's what it's going to be getting its energy from. It's going to be what it's using for a fuel source. So definitely don't skimp on the fat. A lot of that fat's just going to melt out of the meatball, but it adds a little extra fat to it. And then you bake these either thawed. You bake them for 10 minutes at 400 degrees in an air fryer, maybe 15 minutes in the oven. It takes a little bit longer in the oven. But about 10 minutes in an air fryer or a convection oven from thawed. And if they're frozen, then you're going to add 5 minutes. And these are so good. so delicious. They are my new cookie. And so that's another great snack. If you feel like you just need something to top off the tank, you're feeling low on energy, especially starting out carnivore, you can kind of struggle with the energy levels. And you need a high fat, good protein snack, and you know that you can last 15 minutes. Go grab your meatballs from the freezer, throw them on a pan, and you'll have your snack there. In about 15 minutes, you can chow down, and they cool off really fast because they're little bitty meatballs. I make the meatballs about that big, so over an inch in diameter. But that's our favorite snack. You can make beef patties. You know, if you've got ground beef that is thawed, we always have ground beef thawing here now. Always have a package of ground beef in the fridge thawing. If we don't, it's kind of like butter. You always have to have a stick of butter thawed. You always have to have a stick out on the counter. At least we do. Now, ground beef is our new butter, though we still eat a lot of butter. Actually, we eat more butter. Butter is another thing too. I mean, I've seen people, I've not done it yet. I tried a tablespoon of butter, but it was not cold. So this is the trick I've learned from the Beef and Butter Gal here on YouTube. Steak and Butter Gal. Steak and Butter Gal. She eats cold butter, like right out of the fridge. Just takes a stick, takes a bite out of it, and that's what she eats. That's her snack. That's her candy bar. That sounds gross. And I'm saying right now, I still think it sounds gross, but it's something that I'm working up to. And along with liver. Not a big fan of liver. So, quick snacks. That's what I've got for you. Drinks, sparkling water. Cut the coffee eventually. Right now we're drinking electrolytes. We're drinking minerals. We're drinking water. I think that's pretty much it. And eventually, you start feeling so good on this, you don't care. I think a lot of times we're drinking sugary stuff. We're drinking sweetened stuff. We're drinking coffee. We're drinking something with flavor because we're bored. Because we are so deprived of energy and mental clarity. We have such low bandwidth that we can't physically interact with and change the world around us, right? Like, we're meant to be out here on the land. We're meant to be out here changing this land for the better, but we have such low energy that we can't. So now we're sitting here in the house, exhausted, because we had been out there working. We just can't work all day when we're not eating properly, when we don't have the right nutrition, that we're sitting here bored and we're thinking, I need something else. So instead of that, what I fill my time with when I'm working, instead of drinking coffee, another drink recommendation, beef broth, bone broth, chicken broth. Make it yourself, or buy it from the store, but make sure it doesn't have any added flavors, natural flavors. All that stuff can have junk in it that's kind of snuck in under the radar. That can be anything. Something bad that you may not want in your diet, but fail-safe method, make it yourself. Go buy some bones, some soup bones from the butcher, and then just stew those. Have them simmering overnight. Best thing to do is have them simmer on low heat for 24 hours to 48 hours. 24 hours is long enough, but some people do it 48 hours. Just have that thing simmering for like 2 days. And then you just ladle yourself out a scoop of it, put it in your coffee cup, and pretend you're drinking coffee. Only you know that it actually has substance to it and nutrition. Lots of good fat, lots of good minerals. And that's what's replaced coffee for me. I should have mentioned that before. I don't drink a lot of it, but when I really, really want something warm, when I want something hot, I'll drink hot beef broth. And the rest of the time I just drink water. I have a sparkling water maybe once a day. So one of these at night usually. I'm probably going to drink 2 of those today because there's nothing bad in it, just water and lime essence. But yeah, I mean, it sounds simple, it sounds boring, but when you have vitality and energy and exuberance to live and to actually enact and interact uh, and to impose your will upon the land that you live on, you're not going to regret it. When you are, when your brain has settled down and you are living fully, these things that you think you really care about, the things that I thought I was really going to care about and I was going to struggle with quitting, haven't been a problem at all. So, we've got some questions here. What's your question?
He wants to
Yeah.
sit here.
So we're going to bring Thane in here, and he's going to talk a little bit about carnivore. After she has a question, okay.
And I want my question answered, so make sure you answer.
What's your question?
My question is it bad to yell at my chickens?
I don't think so.
Okay. I yelled at them for not giving me eggs.
Yeah. I don't think that the chickens care so much. The chickens make enough noise themselves. Okay, we've got Thane here. So, what do you want to talk about, Thane?
Well, I remember once at a best, I would go to the back, and then there was these flavored things for coffee, and then we would put in like a soda, and it's like full of sugar. It's just like a big mountain of sugar that we were just drinking.
Oh, yeah. Yep, I remember those. So do you miss those now?
Kind of, not really.
Kind of, not really?
My cravings is apple butter with bread
Toasted bread. Mm-hmm.
and also a bunch of other stuff like fruit. That's my most problem, fruit.
Well, that's not a bad problem to have. There's worse things that you could eat. I mean, fruit is pretty bad, for being honest. But, probably be better than a candy bar. Oh. Anything else? Is it hard being carnivore?
Yeah, sometimes I just say in my mind, I'm not the right person to be carnivore. Until
So you forget.
yeah.
It's not too bad, is it?
Mhm.
Or is it really bad?
Bad, really bad.
Do you miss all the other things really, really bad, or are you kind of okay?
I miss if we were like never gonna see them ever again.
Oh, the food?
Yeah. Like those dinner burgers at Quick Trip. Those were really good.
Mm-hmm. And have you noticed yourself having any more energy?
Yeah. I have had a lot of problems like headaches, sore throats, but that's probably because I'm not drinking enough of water.
Since you've been doing carnivore, or is that before you were doing carnivore?
Once I started carnivore.
Sore throats and headaches?
Mhm.
So some of that's probably the withdrawals from carbohydrates. And yeah, I had headaches for about the first, on and off, I'd have headaches for about the first month. So it'll all get better. And as you drink more water. Yeah, if you think your sore throat is because of water, it's probably, I mean, I haven't noticed you guys being sick, so that's probably not it. But anything else you want to say? Okay.
But I have a few more things to say quick.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
The most meats that I like would be
Oh, yes. Favorite meats.
yes.
What's your favorite meat?
Meatballs.
You like the meatballs?
Yeah.
Beef and bacon?
Our own steak because it's not like store bought steaks. They're like it's so hard to chew when I say that they trick you because it's like hard to chew into and I'm like, wait, I should have been able to swallow it by now. And then I swallow it and it's like if I have chewed it up. And then also burgers. I like cheese.
So you really
on top
like
of-
beef.
And pig, especially if you eat pig like chicken. That's my most favorite part about eating pigs.
You like pork? Yeah, I've noticed you outside playing a lot more. So I saw you all day yesterday playing outside almost. And it was freezing cold out there.
Well, that's kind of because I had a question that I was kind of just waiting
Oh,
when you were doing wood. I
well,
also saw you almost run over one of the dogs. It's like the tire was right here and the dog was right here.
I know. It wouldn't move. I don't think that the dog saw me until I was almost on top of it. And I didn't see it until I was almost on top of it. So thankfully I saw it because I didn't run the puppy over. Do you want to jump in here? Okay. So Hadassah, how's it going?
I'm pretty normal. I've noticed that I've woken up earlier, like 8. I would wake up around 10 and not do my chores until 11 because I'd be tired and stuff.
And do you miss having been only on carnivore for 3 weeks now? Do you miss the way that we used to eat?
Sometimes. But I know it's good for me.
So sometimes you miss it, but you know it's good for you.
Yes.
What is the thing that you miss the most? What's your biggest craving?
Well, on the second day of being carnivore, I was craving bread, and I made meat bread, but it was terrible. It tastes nothing like
Tastes
bread.
good.
Carnivore bread, which is basically meatloaf. Finely ground meat. And is there pork rinds in it?
Yeah.
So that kind of dried it out a little bit. Yeah, I tried some. It wasn't the worst thing I've had, but it definitely didn't taste like bread. I suppose it could be some sort of substitute for bread, like really thick, heavy, extremely filling bread. If you made a sandwich out of that, that might be the only thing you need to eat the rest of the day.
I have a good question. What is harder, getting off of the sugar and carbohydrates or getting off of the internet?
I don't know. We haven't
Not
had
the
the
internet
internet
for a long time.
I know, but do you remember how hard it was?
Yes.
Does this feel like the same hard?
No.
No? Which is harder, the internet or the food?
Internet.
Internet? Yeah, so technology.
Technology
More
is
addictive
harder.
than
Yep.
sugar.
Technology is more addictive than sugar. Probably. I mean, with all the shorts we've got on YouTube and stuff, I get sucked into that once in a while. And what is your favorite meat? What is your favorite meal on carnivore that you've had so far?
Probably meatballs, steak, and bacon.
Meatballs, steak, and bacon. If
I'm-
you've got to have a quick snack, what's the first one you go to?
I'm gonna start with mine.
Well, if we have string cheese. But if we
Mhm.
don't, then ground beef or
Yep.
an egg.
So we still do dairy products. We still do cheese, cottage cheese, sour cream, milk, cream, half and half. But cheese is a quick snack. We have had to cut back on the cheese because at first they were eating a lot of cheese. It was like cheese diet. It was have a little meat with your cheese diet. And that's not what the carnivore diet is. So if you're going out and you're buying like 3 blocks of cheese every week and you're eating more cheese than you are meat, it's not going to work out so well for you. That has been known to cause a lot of problems. That's something that's pretty common when people start carnivore and they're not aware of, well, it's not the cheese diet. So watch out for that. For anybody else doing this or thinking about doing it, it's not the cheese diet. You can have a little cheese to add to your meat, but not the other way around. What else do you want people to know about you and carnivore?
Well, I haven't noticed a lot of changes. Yeah, that's basically it.
Okay. Do you need to jump back in here?
Yeah, I forgot something.
Okay. Lenny returns.
Really quick, so I didn't even need to sit down. My favorite snack is bacon and like meat sticks and stuff. But my favorite meal is ham on top of eggs. Runny yolks.
That sounds delicious.
Unless it's like cured ham. It has to be the really bad jelly ham. Then it tastes good.
Yep. And then we'll make some hollandaise sauce out of eggs, egg yolk, to be more precise, butter, a little bit of vinegar, so like a tablespoon of vinegar, tablespoon and a half of vinegar, and salt. Make some hollandaise sauce out of that and put that on your eggs, ham, maybe some Canadian bacon if you want to be like Eggs Benedict style. And it's so good you don't even miss the biscuit or the usually English muffins, I think is what they use. So I've been a big, let's throw some cheese on there.
I
Some
tried.
cheese, ham, eggs, hollandaise sauce. That is carnivore Eggs Benedict. It is so good.
I tried to make cheese sauce, like I tried to melt cheese in the microwave in a glass measuring cup thing. So I sprinkled some shredded cheese in there and I stuck it in the microwave for a minute. And like halfway I opened it up and it turned kind of into a cheese cracker. I'm like, oh no, this isn't what I want you to do. So I'm like, I tried to stir it around and see if I could get it to kind of get saucy more and put it back in the microwave for the rest of the time. I brought it out and it was a cheese puff. I sprinkled salt on it. I tried to make it on a plate. It didn't work. It turned into a cheese cracker. It wasn't a cheese puff. So you can only do in measuring cups.
Yeah, cheese puffs usually have a lot of carbohydrates in them.
Yeah.
Flour, no, corn. I think it's corn. It's basically a corn puff that's cheese flavored. Okay, last guest appearance here. What do you guys say?
Well, the two things in carnivore, if we didn't do it, I would have a big problem is having salt because I'm actually a salt lover. So I like eating a lot of salt.
Yep.
Except I wouldn't want to over salt my food. And milk. Milk is too good.
I know, we had to cut back on your milk intake too. You love milk so much you were almost doing the milk diet. So that's a couple of things that we've had, trial and error things that we've had to deal with. Too much cheese, too much milk. What else?
Too much bacon. We were going through 4 pounds in 4 days.
Oh yeah, we were doing a pound of bacon every single day for a while there, and that's just, yeah, Too much bacon. I'm not sure if it was that we don't want to be able to afford that much bacon or if that's just unhealthy for you. But I think you can't overdo it on the bacon. So between 5 people, pound of bacon every single day, that might be overdoing it a little bit. So too much bacon, too much milk, too much cheese. One thing you can't overdo, I mean, you can overdo it, but you won't if you follow your taste buds, is butter and salt. It's really hard to eat too much butter. It's really hard to eat too much salt. And you can eat those as much as you want along with your meat, and you're going to be golden. So that's what we've been up to. That's what we've been doing. We're going to have to wrap this up here. That's, for us, 3 weeks on carnivore. I didn't really get to talk about a whole lot of what other reasons were for us starting this. So I will just, we'll just end this with the brain fog issue. So my brain fog had gotten to the point where, looking back now, I feel like I was living in a dream. I was living in a alternative reality. Like it didn't feel like I was actually awake. I know that I was there, but my head was so muddled. My thoughts, actually trying to think and not just go through the motions of this is what I do every day, but actually trying to be organized and find motivation and drive to do things, had gotten to the point where it felt like, to use a physical analogy, like I was trying to walk upstream in a flooded creek or a river or something, right? Where if you've ever done that, you realize how hard it is to walk against the flow of water. It is ridiculously taxing, and that's just what it felt like in my brain. Like my brain was working against something, pushing back against it, to be able to think, to be able to plan, to strategize, to come up with the plan that we were going to enact here on the farm that week or that day, or what I wanted to do in the next year. And it had only just gotten really bad up until this last year, 2023, I think is the worst it's ever been. And I just got to the point where I thought, it really can't get any worse, because I'm just not even going to realize it. If it gets any worse, I'm just not even going to be cognizant of it. I won't realize it's getting better, that it's getting worse. I'm going to get to the point where, like a dementia patient or somebody with Alzheimer's, I'm just going to be sitting there and not even realize that I'm not there. That was basically, in my mind, that was going to be the next step. I would never have been able to sit down and do a live like this and talk coherently for over an hour and stay on subject. And we got off a little here and there. We had some rabbit trails, but we would not have been talking this much, or sharing this much, or being able to talk cogently and coherently with you this long on a live stream. We would have been all over the place, talking about completely different subjects, things that had nothing to do with anything else, because that's just how my brain worked at the time. Now I have clarity like nothing else. Oh, I still love my rabbit trails, but we can come back and I know exactly where I left off. Whereas before, I would get off on a rabbit trail and I wouldn't even remember what I had been talking about before that. And it'd be like, well, I guess we're just going to find a new subject to talk about now. That's how bad it had gotten. And now it is like, I feel like a completely different person. I feel like I'm becoming a completely different person. I don't feel like I'm at 100%, but I'm getting there. And it's a way that I feel probably like I felt, I'd say the last time I felt this good was probably 2018, 2019. And then things just started going downhill over the years. So now, many years later, four or 5 years later, I feel like I did 5 years ago. No joke. I'm not even exaggerating. I wanted to go back further because I like my hyperbole. I like to exaggerate once in a while, but this is I'm not joking here. I have gone downhill for like the last 5 years mentally, and I feel like I've just, in the matter of a little over 2 months, been yanked out of this pit of mental confusion and fog that I didn't even realize how bad I was getting until now. I knew it was getting bad, but it's like now that my mind is starting to clear up and I don't have the mental fog, the clarity and the lucidity is returning. I feel like I'm becoming a brand new person again, which is wonderful. This is amazing. This is the primary reason why I started Carnivore. It's not the only reason. There were some other things and they were getting bad too, but we're kind of out of time for today, so we're going to end it here shortly. But that's my story so far, and the major reason why we started Carnivore, or why I started Carnivore. Also, I just wanted to do it for the health of the entire family, because I realized what processed foods and a plant-based diet has done to me, and I see what it's done to other people, and I see that we are becoming a nation of extremely sick people. And people point out that obesity is on one side, but they very rarely talk about the skinny guys like me who have all sorts of problems. We're just not showing it by our weight. But I had so many problems that people who are who struggle with weight also have, and it just had gotten to the point where metabolically my body was not performing. It was not acting the way it should. My brain was not acting the way it should. It was like there was a block between the rest of my body and my brain, where even if I felt good and I thought I had good energy, my brain would sap it all trying to work, and I'd get very little, I'd have very little to show at the end of it. And it would just completely drain me of all energy, physically and mentally. I'd just be gone, and I wasn't able to operate. And operating at a high level is absolutely necessary, in my opinion, when you want to take care of a property like we have here. But now my thoughts are returning, my ideas are returning, my dreams are returning, and things that I'd kind of just given up on, and I thought, we're not going to ever get to that level again. It's all coming back. So I'm starting to think about, how do we present this channel? How do we present ourselves and what we're doing here? And I've thought, really, this is something that I've known about for 5 years or more, that we wanted to eat healthy, we wanted to eat meat, we wanted to have a meat healthy diet, and that eventually, through research, turned into not a meat heavy diet, but a meat only diet, being the primary source of our nutrition for the rest of our lives. And so the way that I think about presenting the farm now is something along the lines of, we are a family, we are homesteading this land, or we are farming this land for ours and others' needs. And this is all just kind of a rough sketch of it. But our goal here is to be self-sufficient, 100% self-sufficient, so that we are raising all of our own food. If we're eating beef, if we're eating bacon, if we're eating chicken, if we're eating lamb, it's something that we raised here on our land. And this is the way that I think that, homesteaders usually, if we're drinking milk, if we're eating cheese, it's something that we made here, we raised it here, it came from our animals. And that kind of makes me really excited to think about this, because a lot of times homesteaders have a goal of being self-sufficient. It's not everybody. Some people just homestead because they love it. Some people homestead because their goal is they want to replace 50% of the food that they get from the grocery store. So they want to be raising 50% of their diet on their farm or on their homestead, which, whether that's vegetables from the garden, or that's other products that they're eating, whether that's meat, eggs, milk, right? they'll do a portion of that. But they can only ever seem to get up to maybe like 70 to 90%. They can't get that last 10%. With the carnivore diet, you can, you know, like with what we're doing here, on less than 10 acres, realistically, we could raise all of our own food here. And so that's our goal. Now, these things have to be put down on paper and made much more concise, so that at the beginning of a video I can say, hey, we're Freewarden Farm. Welcome back to the farmstead, where we are living out, or where we have our goal of raising 100% of our own food. Come along with us, we'll show you how we do it. This is a day in the life. Something like that. Just all of that, everything that I just shared there, are things that I've only just recently been thinking about. Because I've only just recently had the bandwidth to actually think them. So much of my day was just trying to get from point A to point B before. And now, the mental clarity has just, my mental capacity has gone through the roof. I can only go to sleep at night because I'm physically exhausted. Otherwise, you know, when I don't work hard enough during the day, which I now have the energy to do, I will sit there and I will think until I don't know at what time in the morning I finally go to sleep. And it's not like I'm sitting there like, oh, I wish I could just go to sleep. It's like, I can't go to sleep because I've got all these exciting thoughts again. So that's what carnivore has done for me. And that's after just over 2 months of doing this, and really only being strict for the last 3 weeks. Now, the last 3 weeks have made a huge difference, though. So I will say, like, easing into it, I think I needed to do that for my own health. I think I needed to do that for, you know, so that I didn't, like, so I didn't shock my body and end up having a heart attack or something. I don't know. But in the last 3 weeks, that's when I've really noticed the biggest difference. And so definitely, the stricter you can be with carnivore, the better you're going to feel, and the faster you're going to feel that way. But we're not health experts, so I'm not telling you how to do that. Don't blame me if it goes bad. There are professionals out there. There's lots of doctors out there. On YouTube, there's Dr. Anthony Chafee, Dr. Sean Baker, Dr. Ken Berry. They all have very different personalities.
They all think differently about
They all think differently about carnivore. So we've listened to them all. We have kind of decided based on all of what, and it's not just them, there's a bunch of others. I'm not going to do any more shout outs here. Those are the three main ones that, and it's really primarily Dr. Ken Berry and Dr. Anthony Chafee. Really phenomenal guys. And yeah, they've got their ideas that I don't agree with, and but they try to back everything up with science. And so I do give a fair shake to everything that they say. And I've actually, speaking of scientific studies, they're my primary source for finding these studies because they're kind of hidden. Some of them aren't necessarily like, here's a study on carnivore. There's actually not a study on carnivore. There's a lot of studies on meat. There's a lot of studies on cholesterol. There's a lot of studies on ketosis and stuff like that are coming out more recently. So it's a lot of information out there, but having a professional who has found these things is really helpful. Okay, I'm talking too much too fast.
You need to wrap it up.
So that's it for us today, folks. Yeah, that's the goal, though. Self-sufficiency, 100% of our food raised here, which you can realistically do when you're raising animals. I was telling, one more quick thing here, I was telling my brother, who has a massive garden, but really wants to be more meat-based, and is actually since the first of the year. I didn't even know he was doing this until after I mentioned that we were going to do it. He's like, oh, me too. He's been carnivore since January 1st. We've been carnivore since January 1st, but he has a massive garden. So I kind of was like, what are you going to do with that? Maybe instead of spending all the energy that you have in the past couple of years on this garden again, that you're not going to eat anything from anyway. How about you raise some animals? I can get you some pigs, we can get you a lamb, and then you've got 10 acres. You got more land than we do. You can raise animals on this land and then you can fill your freezer with stuff that you're actually going to eat and stuff that's actually going to give your body hyper bioavailable fuel and nutrients that your body can use, which he already knows. I was preaching to the choir there. But he's like, well, I'll actually think about that, you know? So we'll see. We'll see if he wants to do that. I'm kind of excited to see if he does that because I think it's the best. It's the best life to be able to, now if you have the mental clarity and you have the mental lucidity to actually be present and do this life, this is an exciting life. I love this life, and I'm so excited for the future now. And so I'm really excited for my brother, hoping that he does go down this path. And if not, that's fine too. Maybe it's not for everybody, but it's definitely the life for me. Raising our own animals, trying to be self-sufficient, and actually seeing a glimmer of hope that it's even possible on less than 10 acres to do this if you focus on raising animals. So that's it. I'm done.
All right. Well, thanks for everyone who came to watch. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share if you know anyone who would find this interesting.
Oh wow, we've got 8 viewers right now. So I will just say we do this every single Sunday at 3 o'clock. We'd love to have you back. We don't just talk about carnivore.
Yep.
We talk about all sorts of things. You know, we talked, like last week, we talked about just what was going on. It was freaking cold out, and we were kind of in shock. So we just talked about that. Sometimes it's low key. Sometimes it's you know, a little more exciting.
Yep.
Today was, in my opinion, a little more interesting, but that's just because it's the subject matter. But you know, so we'll just talk about whatever we're doing. We were going to talk about grinding beef back here. We're adding some fat to our ground beef. Well, we're grinding beef and we're adding some fat to it, some back fat. So we didn't get to talk about that, but that's okay. All that to say, thank you very much for viewing. We'll be back next Sunday at 3 o'clock. If for any reason we can't make it, we'll put a note out on the community notes. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the like button. We thank you all very much for joining us. We'd love to have you back and invite you to come back next Sunday at 3 o'clock, where we will be talking more about homesteading and all things living life sufficiently here at Freewarden Farm. Y'all take care. Stay safe. Hug somebody. God bless. Everything is going to be okay. Peace.
Bye!
Oh my goodness.